There's certainly some Nate Heinold flair out there.
What's up, Disgenerates? It's the Disc Golf World. I'm Jefferson, and alongside me as always, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese, recapping everything you need to know from round 2 of the World Championships. First, I gotta thank our Patreon and YouTube members for supporting the boys and allowing us to be at the event. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to bring you this story. If you've ever attended a professional disc golf event, I'm sure you're aware of Vendor Village. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, well, at every event, there is a designated area for those that want to set up and sell whatever it is, from discs, merch, art, you name it. Essentially, it's the only other thing at these tournaments that provide any sort of entertainment. In other words, pretty vital for the fan experience. Being at more than half the events this year, I can say those with better vendor villages leave me with a better memory. Sure, you might see some cool shots, but the guys providing on-site dying lessons leave a bigger impact. And there's plenty of people that do stuff just like that. Or just think of all those personalities that these fans can't get enough of wandering around wanting to interact. Hopefully I illustrated the importance of vendors. Well, after day 1, Swiss and I were left pretty underwhelmed. For weeks we've been wondering what the turnout to the biggest event of the season was going to look like, just to be disappointed. Worse was when I found out the reasoning behind it. And at first, I couldn't believe it. But once I could count on 2 hands from the amount of people expressing how expensive it was. Rumored to cost $20,000. Now, I don't sell discs, but I have an extremely hard time believing any company will be able to make a profit. Now, think about all the shops that are run by some person grinding in their basement. We're really going to try to pry every penny out of them? Gets better when the pros were also supposed to pay. That's as dumb as having volunteers pay if they want to watch after their shift. No way. That's real? Thankfully, Greg from OTB stepped up on 6 weeks' notice to pull off the Altmart for all of those that couldn't afford to vend on site at the World Championships. Instead, they gathered at a local establishment, took over the back patio, filling it up with pros and anyone else who wanted to be a part of it. But who cares what I have to say? Here's what the man himself said.
Greg from OTB Discs here, checking in from the OTB Roadshow. We have got the Altmart. This was our kind of world's fly mart idea that we had here for 2024. This was just kind of the thing that I took a lot of pride in because I wanted to represent Virginia and we wanted to have a really good showing and just show that, you know, we're a national brand, we're a global brand, but it's all about like kind of creating this community that happens each week at tournaments all across the country. And you know, because of this guy right here, because of a lot of players who've put in a lot of hard work, and there's been progress made, you know, by vendors, by manufacturers, and you know, we're just trying to keep up with the curve. And so when it became kind of difficult or a little bit prohibitive to vend at the actual event, I just started to tap into some of my resources here in Virginia. I had the idea maybe 6 weeks ago and just started making some phone calls, and it happened pretty fast, honestly. Within about 48 hours we had a location. Kind of had vetted it out with a few of my friends. Excited to facilitate something for the players because I know it was difficult for some of the players. They were looking at like a fee of maybe $300 to vend this week. And so I'm always happy to have players show up, whether they're OTB players or non-OTB players. We love just making it easy for the players to sell their stuff because the players bring the fans. And again, I can talk into my little vacuum, and it's helpful when everyone else is talking about it, building the hype. And yeah, just excited to be here. It is a fly mart, like this is what we call this in disc golf. But I didn't want it to be too confusing to have this one called the OTB Fly Mart at Worlds, and then there to be like the official Fly Mart at Worlds, or the PDGA Fly Mart at Worlds, or whatever we're calling it at the actual Tournament Central. So I thought Altmart was just clear. It can be your alternative to the traditional Fly Mart. That was kind of like my little tagline for it. But yeah, Altmart kind of popped up, and it just came in my head one day, and I was just like, oh, it's the Altmart. That's just what it is. And it's like the alternative to the traditional Fly Mart. And these are all people that I've vended with for the last 3 seasons, and so it's really easy for me to say yes to Happy with Par, to say yes to Disc in the Dark, to say yes to Thought Space, to say yes to Treasures of the Forest, to say yes to Dream Disc Golf. Like, these are the people out here grinding, doing the vending week after week. I've been off the road for a little while, so it was nice to come back with a bang here at Worlds. And so maybe we'll try and do more of these in the future. It seems like this was pretty successful. And so yeah, we're just excited to make it happen.
So was the reason you did this in the first place was because of it being so expensive to vend at the normal Worlds?
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Okay.
Because again, when we're evaluating the stops that we want to make, I have a threshold of what I want to spend, regardless of like the exposure or the level of tournament or whatever. So this one was like significantly above what we're comfortable paying, and yeah. Like I said, I thought that we could create something like this pretty easily, and then when we actually started to implement it, it happened pretty fast. And so I'm glad, because again, this was no cost to anybody. Cool. Players allowed to vent for free. I just like basically had first come, first serve, and then my partners, Disc in the Dark, Happy with Par, Thought Space, they're sponsoring my putt night tomorrow, so we're going to do this one more night. It's kind of a cool organic thing, and OTB has always opened a lot of doors for me personally as an employee and just as a person, and so it's nice to be able to use our reputation if that's what happened, to like make the players want to come out and make it a thing. We're happy to do that.
When we say disc golf is unlike any other sport, this is what we're talking about. Someone who takes time and effort to plan an event just to help those that make this game great. Because you want to know who sets up at the events? The ones that need every dollar they can to make their dreams a reality. And when we start reaching in their pockets, us at the disc golf world need to make everyone aware. It was great to see dozens of pros come out to support. And I had the opportunity to talk to one of the vendors about the Alt Mart, and this is what they had to say.
The Alt Mart is a gathering of my kind of people, man. It's just like some smaller brands out here, but just the people that are kind of like the OG fly marks, the people that want to facilitate a good time for the fans. Being out there on the course is awesome, but this is the time that you get to like focus on the community aspect and not just the tournament results and stuff like that. And you know, what gets us into the game is more of that community aspect. So yeah, just a bunch of homies that are trying to make that shit happen. And then obviously we got a pretty stacked lineup of pro players out here slinging their merch, signing autographs, and just kind of rubbing elbows. So just a good crowd of people. For a small brand like me, you know, I'm just one guy in my basement kind of cranking out merch, and to come to a big event like this is, you know, it's a financial kind of hurdle, right? Since I decided not to attend the Fly Mart and pay a little bit of extra money, I wanted to see if I could get some homies together and do a kind of party style Fly Mart where I could incorporate my friends that play music, incorporate my friends that make art around beer. We released a beer here at the brewery, Apocalypse Ale Works. We were taking a good time really seriously. We were taking like, how do we make this very fun? But we were taking that seriously, you know, to kind of like make sure the shit pans out.
I know the video and audio quality was pretty shit, but Ivy Hill kicked my ass today, so you can blame Heinold on that one too. On that note, Swiss, hit the people with the FPL recap.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you just got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
Setting off the action at Ivy Hills, where OB and rollaways can stack numbers easily. Many, including myself, didn't know what to expect from the action, as the best round on the Ivy the day prior was 2 over, and that was still 985 rated. But with Holland's prowess off the tee and a lead, most just hope it would still be a race. Luckily for the fans, it started out that way, with both Holland Hanley and Kat Merch starting off with birdies on the first 2 holes. Kat needing to make her first C2 look to keep pace with Hanley parked on hole 2. And after Holland's drive leaked OB on the very next hole, Merchinator hits her second C2 putt in back-to-back holes, this one from 65 feet away, electrifying fans as she finally gained a stroke on Holland. Even though Holland was trying to woo-saw her way through her first OB in an effort to keep her mental game strong, it's moments like these that continue to put the screws into players' psyche over the entire 5 days, as every moment becomes larger on the World Championship stage and needs to be overcome to achieve everyone's goal walking in. I noted in yesterday's recap, Holland was not that strong off the tee as she normally is, and her putt was what really got her the scoring outside of those 2 eagles. Today, she encountered similar errors, those ones far more costly. For Holland, her OB struggles would continue, as she would tally 6 total OBs for the round and add another penalty when her disc landed in hazard, 4 of which would contribute to her 4 bogeys on her scorecard. Made even worse with the fact that Evelina Salonen was beginning to close in on Hanley's lead from chase card. Evelina had a slow start with pars on the first 2 holes, one of which was the easiest on the day, but was still eyeing her first birdie of the round on hole 3, only for her to miss again from C1X. But this story would be a little different, as a frustrated Evelina would respond by cashing every putt from C1 like a hindhole surcharge. That was till hole 18, including the 23-footer for birdie on 4 that would kick off her day. She would add 3 more birdies on the front half, playing clean through the front 9, and close Holland's lead by 2 strokes in that same span. Evelina was of course in the top 3 in nearly every stat off the tee like she normally is, but scrambled the best out of any player and shockingly actually gained strokes in C1X putting on the day. However, her having the second least OB strokes is how she really climbed. She would pick up another stroke on the back half by simply going 1 under and finished with a 5 under tied for the hot round with Haley King and Natalie Ryan. That effort moved both of them up into the top 10 and Ryan even into the top 5, as the two also scored the most birdies on the day but also added plenty of color. And color would be the theme, as there was plenty of movement up and down the leaderboard after some large numbers came in, with some of the biggest names near the top who were not excluded. And then there's hole 14, everyone's favorite. Just don't ask Rebecca Cox about it. And while we're on the topic of not mentioning things, add Silva Saarinen C1 putt to that list. Emily Weatherman benefited from the scoring, making her first World's lead card after a 3 under round, which also helped Holland, whose 2 under was enough to leave the round no differently than when she came in. That's 3 strokes up on the entire field, heading back to New London, where we all have seen where she can score. Those of you that are on Tatar Watch will be happy with her moving up 11 places. Now finds herself in the top 10. Yet she still lost a stroke to Holland on the day, and with 3 days remaining, the holes are starting to dwindle.
First impressions, the first practice round, I was not a fan. I did not like the course. Really long, and some of the OBs seemed a little sketchy. But after playing it, I think I've played it 4 or 5 times at this point, and I'm a huge fan now. There's very specific landing zones that you have to hit, shots you have to be very careful, a lot of scary shots. And I think there's 3 holes that are a bit too hard, where most of the field is going to take par. With the exception of 2 or 3 holes, I think this place is amazing. If you want to get big and you want to throw that crazy shot, there's an opportunity for that, but you have to be very careful. I think most players are just going to try to hit the landing zones, and this is playing very much like USDGC with all the OB. I've thrown a lot of fairway drivers and a lot of mids off the tee, but there's a couple holes where I'm just laying up for par. So I think like 16 and hole 5 and hole, I think it's 14. All of those will just be playing to the center cut of the fairway and then try my best to get a par from there.
For someone who hated the course, he did just fine, as Isaac Robinson finds himself on top of the leaderboard for another day. This time, he finds himself with a 3-stroke lead. Kicked off his round with 2 birdies before finding some OB, a thing that would become common on the day. Although, he would still get the par, which he would follow up with the birdie, along with a few more to end his front 9 6 under. He slowed up on the back as he would continue to find the out of bounds. However, no matter the trouble, would never card a bogey, continuing his streak from yesterday. I don't know about you guys, but this is starting to remind me a lot of last year, especially when Isaac is nailing those sneaky steppers from all over the place. Adam Hammes would jump up 6 spots only to be trailing Isaac by 3. Not bad when you see the double penalty on hole 2 along with hole 14. I can't fully blame the players for the OB, as we saw some discs take their own route to danger. To the point we heard from fans not liking the course, calling it fluky. Now I don't like saying it that way, but man, I don't know what else to call what happened to the lead card on hole 10 today. Let us know what you think in the comments below. One thing's for sure, my knees hurt so damn much walking on those hills. Hammes still managed to put together the hot round of the day, being the only person to put up double digits. Joseph Buckets is tied at second after a 7 under day, although was able to snag a lot of birdies, which is a great sign as he typically does a good job at staying in bounds. There's still a whole tournament to play the next 3 days, and Joey is still in striking distance as long as he can stay clean in the woods. Rounding out tomorrow's lead card, you got Simon Lizotte after an 8 under round. That also includes 6 extra strokes due to not being able to keep the disc in the fairway. Hard to complain though when you find yourself in the lead card of the World Championships. And that's everything you need to know from round 2. Make sure to subscribe to not miss out on tomorrow's recap. And shout out to everyone who said what's up today. If you see us out there, definitely say hey. We love meeting all you disc generates.
Let's go, world, bitch.